Hey everyone, Curse Deck Builder here. We're looking at a Forge Neverwinter Charlatan deck. Cranky Old and Tired is asking for a first time that they've been asking for opinion or advice, so they've posted their deck list here, and it's based off of the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and they're looking for advice. So let's see what we have here. We have Forge. I've never seen this card before. 4 mana, 2/4, human rogue, menace. Ward, sack a creature, and gets +2 attack for each treasure you control. Whenever one or more players sacrifice one or more creatures, you create a tap treasure once a turn. Okay, I really like this. I think this is a really good start to a mono black deck with this commander, mainly because it comes with ramp, and I really like that. And something that I don't know if everyone will think of immediately, the ward that says your opponent needs to sacrifice a creature to target this creature is incredibly powerful when they have no creatures. It basically means they can't target your commander. This commander has Shroud if the owner of the spell has no creatures. I think that's really cool and really exploitable. Um, First, this is kind of a little thing, but you have 101 cards. You can cut a card. Commander decks are 100 cards with the commander, not before the commander. So I've never seen this website before either, and I like that when I sort by mana value, it actually does it backwards. So a couple of things I think right off the bat. I like a lot of the inclusions here, but there's a bit of a high curve. I'm looking at Butcher of Malak here. I'm looking for Limdul the Necromancer, Thieving Amalgam, and those are just the creatures. So something I would suggest right off the bat is we're going to cut down on the number of high mana cards. Now you might be thinking, Cursed, didn't you just say our commander creates ramps us, like creates more mana? Don't we want higher mana stuff? So here's the weird thing. Think about it this way. If you have 10 treasures, Forge attacks for lethal against any opponent. So you don't actually want to spend all of the treasure always. I think you want to keep a few here and there. And 10 treasure is very, very doable if you start thinking about how you can get one treasure per turn, which adds up to 4 treasures per turn cycle. It's a little tricky, but it's definitely doable. I think also you've definitely gone in a direction that we would call aristocrats. So I'm going to make card suggestions based on that, and you're going to have to gauge for yourself how deep into that you want to go. I think the first thing beyond anything else I will suggest is that it seems that you are low on card draw. There's a few cards here and there, but I would like to see more card draw. And when you have ramp in your command zone, card draw is really nice. I'm gonna start off with the nice basics that we should go with. Silent Blood is really nice. After that, Read the Bones, and after that, I would go into Phyrexian Arena. All of these cards will, so the first two will draw immediately, and the next two, Phyrexian Arena and Underworld Connections, will both draw over time. So they'll really pay off in 2 to 3 turns. And something that I always like is Greed. I think Greed is also a very strong card that is honestly kind of slept on because I think people see the 4 mana and they underestimate how many cards this draws. If you play Greed and you take 1 turn off, you can draw, assuming you get to the 5th land, like you play this on curve, and you have 5 black mana on the next turn and you skip your turn, you draw 5 cards. Now that is 10 life. That's a little higher of a rate than I would usually like, where usually it's one card per life. But honestly, I don't think that's bad. I think getting 5 cards on your last opponent's end step before you go into your turn is a huge advantage, and you should be able to clean up after that. In Garrick's Wake is really strong, but 9 mana is a lot. So if you're looking for something a little lower to the ground, I would recommend Languish. -4, -4 is pretty solid. Something else that doesn't get talked about a lot is that board clears get the reputation that they need to destroy every creature or otherwise they're not worth it. But I think the mentality should be that board clears are made for wide boards and not for tall boards. And by that I mean when your opponent has a bunch of 1/1s, you cast Languish. The fact that someone has like a 6/6 and Languish won't kill it is not really that much of a problem. That's not why you cast the card. If you wanted to get rid of the 6/6, you would have used something else. This is for wide boards. Unfortunately, it'll kill your commander for sure, but it is a board clear, so that is the cost of that. I noticed someone mentioned here that the deck has little instant interaction, so that you can cast a few extra instant speed cards and a few removal spells. I don't necessarily disagree with this, but I really like the direction the deck is already in, with Innocent Bloodstyle, Gravelighter, Fleshbag Marauder, Merciless Executioner, and Playcrafter style cards. These cards are criminally underrated in Commander. I think they are very, very strong, and people just assume that everyone's going to have 2 to 3 creatures at all times, and that you're just going to kill the worst creature your opponents have. And I think they underestimate what happens when you play these cards turn after turn. You end up taxing their board states to the point that it becomes incredibly, they become disincentivized to play out cards, right? Because they're not going to, after you show one of these cards, or even two, they're going to get scared to run out their commander. Because if they spend their time, all their mana to play their commander, and you play Playcrafter, you are going to be very far ahead in that exchange. Um, and once again, like this is, I am really liking this deck. Using these everyone sack innocent blood style effects will scare opponents into not playing creatures, which makes Forge have hexproof against them. And I think that's really strong. Yeah, the more I see this deck, the more I really like it. I think there's you have a few artifacts here that are nice, but not very necessary. I think I'd be a lot happier if you had 1 or 2 mana rocks. So anything that taps for black or colorless should be fine. I think you can even just start with Charcoal Diamond, if I spelled that correctly. I did. Charcoal Diamond and move from there, like Mind Stone as well. You don't need too much ramp because your commander will be providing that themselves. Um, so what I do want to see is more aristocrat strategies. And so what I mean by that, if you're unfamiliar or if someone's been watching these videos and I bring up aristocrat strategies, we have an A plus B plus C kind of scenario. You have 3 types of cards. You have what we generally call Blood Artist effects, where Blood Artist creatures care when other creatures die. So let's say when, and we can find those really easily by just typing whenever a creature dies in black. And then let's go by mana value, and we should get the majority of them. So Death Greeter gains you life, Blood Artist steals 1 life. A little further down, we have Zulaport Cutthroat is a good one. Bastion of Remembrance is another good one. These are all cards that say whenever a creature dies, non-token will draw you a card. Midnight Reaper will draw you a card, non-token. You already have Pawn of Ulamog, which is already very strong. And I'm looking for at 4 mana, we have a few others. Falconwrath Noble is one of them. And I believe black should have at least one more. Vindictive Vampire is another one. And I believe there's a few more that you can get maybe at 5 mana or the like. So these are the Blood Artist effects. So every time a creature dies, you'll drain one or all your opponents for 1 life, which adds up after a while. Sifter of Skulls already is one of these effects. Yeah, so already you're playing a good portion of these cards. So I would say it is an option to go put the Blood Artist effects, and then I would like a few of Viscera Steel Seer style effects. Once again, what I mean by that is I want the word sacrifice a creature, colon. That's what I want. That is all you need. It doesn't really matter what they do. Viscera Seer and the other really good one, sacrifice creature, counter, block. I think this will get it. Yep. Carrion Feeder is the other one that I particularly like because it has the same line of text. 1 black mana, sacrifice a creature, colon. Carrion Feeder will grow, Viserys Seer will scry, and both of them will eat up the extra creatures you have laying around. For example, off of Dreadhorde Invasion, you'll get a creature each turn that'll be free for the eating. Now, what also makes them particularly strong is that you'll be able to trigger these on your opponent's turns, which means every time you do that, you're going to get a treasure token. So that would be the goal. If you have a Seer and a returning group of creatures, which we'll get to in a second, you are going to be able to go turn by turn, get 1 trigger each time, and you're going to get back to your turn, and you're going to have 4 extra treasures. Now, that is kind of a high bar. I think it would be much more reasonable to expect 2 or 3 as you go through the game. But that is a lot of ramping. You are speeding up your game plan aggressively. Not restless reassembling. So the last thing you'll need is creatures that can return from the dead, so that you can sacrifice them multiple times. Reassembling Skeleton is a really good example of this, where it's just 2 mana to have another body to sacrifice. There's actually a lot of skeletons that have these kind of abilities. So I would start return. Like Cult Conscript is definitely one of them, and Sanitarium Skeleton. They're always skeletons for some reason. These would be, I would look at these to start with because they are cheap to come back. They don't need, you don't have to jump through too many hoops, and they guarantee another trigger for both your commander and your Blood Artist effects. And then, like Dreadhorde Invasion, we've already named. Something else to consider is not Blood Artist, is Unearth style cards. There's a few of these that are 1 to 2 mana, where they're reanimation spells, but they're mainly held back by the mana cost of the card you're reanimating. And no one has seen pain than you casting Unearth, bringing back your Plague Crafter yet again in order to get another creature, another commander, another planeswalker, or 1 mana and each of your opponents discards a card is often not bad either. While you're still, if you're paying 1 mana to have this effect and Forge is on the battlefield, even if none of your opponents sacrifice anything, you do, they discard 3 and you get a treasure token. Like, the advantage is real. I really like this deck. I think that's mainly what I want to leave you with. I don't want to go too much deeper because everything beyond that is up to you of how much you want to invest in the aristocrat strategy. But I will say for sure you have a really good base that's already in that direction. Turgrid is fantastic here. She's just incidentally very good, and I think that's where she wants to be. Um, Anawan's fine. I think Anawan is It's fine. 5 mana is really close to the limit of where I would want this ability because I want you to think about it like this. This happens on your upkeep. So you have to pay 5 black mana, and then all of your opponents have an entire turn to get ready for this. And then it's going to come to your upkeep, and only if Anawan is not in the graveyard will this work. If they remove Anawan, it doesn't work. Whereas Plaguecrafter works every time. I think you are playing all the versions of the 3 mana one. There are 4 mana ones. You have to be pretty. Uh, you have to be pretty hungry for this effect to pay 4 mana for it, but it is considerable. I would rather personally just run the Unearth and use that as an extra copy of your 3 mana. Everyone sacrifices cards. And then the last thing I'll say, um, Feign Death effects, which instantly reanimate a creature that dies right after you cast this, are really good here because they let you buy back. Much in the same way of casting Plaguecrafter and reanimating it, you can cast Plaguecrafter, cast Feign Death on it, sacrifice it to itself, and immediately get it back for a second sacrifice. Very strong, and this is the kind of card that protects your commander as well. And likewise, I know I saw here they have Village Rites. There are also a lot of Village Rites like types of cards. If you look 1 to 2 mana in black and say sack a creature and draw 2 cards, I think there's 5 or 6 of them. So if you like this effect, you are very free to play more of them. All right, I hope that helped. As always, I hope this improves your deck and helps you go in a direction you want. And if you have other decks you'd like me to see, or if you build this deck better and you want me to take a look again, I have a form in the video description that you can fill out, and it'll send me your deck, and I'll take a look at it. All right. Oh, this is a great deck. I really like this idea. I wonder how much. He's $5. There might be a universe that I'll build this sometime soon.